Hey, it's our weekly streaming show, and here's a sneak peek at our top streamer of the week. Go get you some Gardner Minshew, rostered in just 23% of Yahoo leagues. Minshew was the QB10 last week against the Titans. He's developed a great rapport with Michael Pittman Jr. He doesn't have a great matchup on the road against the Bengals, but we just saw a thrilling game last night against this defense. He's got the Colts right in the thick of the playoff race and has the weapons to put up some solid fantasy numbers. He's volatile, but he still probably has the highest floor of the available streaming options this week. So go get him, and now let's get to the show. Hello, welcome everyone to the Most Accurate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my fantastic co-host, the great Jen Akins. Jen, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. I just want to say, first of all, I commend you. We did it. We are producerless. So Brandon and Brandon is running the show. I'm just sitting here.
We appreciate your patience.
Yeah, if it looks a little different, things aren't, we are producerless. It's just but I'm good. Not only are we producerless, my husband is on a work trip. No, I say work trip like that because he works in the fly fishing industry. So he's fishing and also like recording some sort of video at the same time for work. But yes, so he's gone for 2 days. So I am alone. I am a single mother for 2 days, which is a very commendable thing. I don't know how people do it. Brandon and I were talking about this earlier today. It's a lot, but other than that, I'm good. Ready to talk a little week 14 action. Hopefully, you guys out there are either vying for or have secured a playoff spot. Brandon, how are we today? You?
I'm doing good. Yeah, we were talking about parenting. My wife was busy today doing lots of important things, and I ended up carting around kids for like 3.5 hours while trying to juggle work and get ready for the show. and I just said to Jen, I said, how do single parents do it? So shout out to all the single parents out there because it sounds impossible. This is our weekly streamer show. We highlight the quarterbacks, tight ends, kickers, and team defenses you should be targeting as streaming options this week. As a reminder, we only discuss the streaming option if they're available in 40% or less of Yahoo leagues. So if your favorite option isn't discussed, probably rostered in too many leagues, which is the case for a lot of quarterbacks this week, I noticed. Hello, Albert. Thank you for joining us. And hi, Corey. Lost your week due to Christian Kirk getting injured. I feel ya. I have a league where Christian Kirk hurt me a lot as well. Not to mention a betting thing that I did that I lost because of Christian Kirk as well. Donald has a question. Hi, Donald. Wonders if Derrick Henry is going to be out. We don't really know that yet because Derrick Henry had a concussion and now supposedly doesn't have a concussion. So I would make sure that you've got a backup plan in place. Hopefully we'll get some more clarity before you have to make that decision. I don't know that I would play Tyjae Spears instead of Austin Ekeler, even if Derrick Henry's out, which seems to be another aspect of your question. I think Ekeler, because he tends to find the end zone, even though the Chargers have struggled the last couple weeks on offense, I would still probably go with Ekeler. So do you have a different thought than that, Jen?
I don't. Ekeler, I know he struggled and I get it. I get the mild panic, but you can't sit him.
Yeah, it's really hard. Really hard to sit Austin Ekeler.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's week 14 already, Jen. I know that it's a long grind for us, like in the industry and making content and writing and editing. But at the same time, I still, even though it's a grind, I blink and it's double-digit weeks, and then suddenly it's the playoffs every year.
Yeah, from a work perspective, it's hard to believe because it's just. I'm sorry. Let's reverse that. From a work perspective, I absolutely believe that it's week 14. It feels like week 32. From a work perspective, but from just a fan perspective, it's crazy that we're already talking playoff implications and all of that stuff for the actual NFL. That part's nuts.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us. Wonders what Keaton Mitchell's production will be like the rest of the season. I'm actually curious in Jen's take on Keaton Mitchell. Got a big boom in his workload a couple weeks ago before the bye. Was really more on the 60-40 side than on the 40-60 side with Gus Edwards. I think it's going to be pretty inconsistent personally, but I think his role is going to continue to grow and he shows that he can produce with it. How are you approaching Keaton Mitchell right now, Jen?
I kind of think that him and Gus are kind of similar. Like I'd put them both like, low end RB2, more like RB3 category. I don't know that either of them are going to run away with it, but no, but I just think that I think that it's one of those things that Mitchell might, bust out some big runs. Gus may get the end zone touches. I think it's or red zone touches, I should say. But yeah, I think the expectations for both are not fantastic. Like I said,
Yeah.
low RB2, more of an RB3.
Yeah, makes sense. And like you said, I think Keaton Mitchell is going to have to score from 20 yards out if he's going to
Yeah.
score, like you just said.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some quarterbacks. It's a decent enough week. I went with Gardner Minshew over Jake Browning. You could talk me into Jake Browning after the night that he had last night. Be careful with Jake Browning. I'm just saying, like, he's looked okay. He definitely looked good last night. He was the QB4 on Monday night, right, against the Jags. He had
That's
that thrilling
crazy.
victory, right? This was also a really bad week for quarterback scoring in general. And he ran in a touchdown, which we like, but I don't know that we could expect that from Jake Browning regularly. You know, he's got 3 games, 2 starts, 3 games with significant action and 3 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, I just be careful with Browning. Everyone's very excited about Jake Browning, waiver ad of the week. I would go with Minshew because he's just done it more this year. We've seen more. That game, they're going to play against each other, so we'll see. Indy's, there's a big step down to the next guys. But he was the QB 18 against the Colts. Dolphins are 20th in AFBA to opposing quarterbacks. Levis hasn't thrown a pick in 3 weeks, and that was kind of an issue with his first couple games. And then the key element there, I think the Titans are going to be playing from behind. I think that Miami is definitely going to control that game on the scoreboard, which should lead to some volume passing numbers for Will Levis. So I'm okay with that as a streamer. And I've got a little bonus for you. I don't hate Joe Flacco at home against the Jags. The Jags gave up a lot to Jake Browning last night. So I don't hate that. Flacco was the QB 13 against the Rams last week. And he moved the ball pretty well. He threw the ball 44 times, had a pair of touchdowns. He's been there before. Jags 24th in AFBA. They also create turnovers, but it wouldn't shock me to see like a 2-touchdown, 2-pick day from Flacco. But I think that he'll get enough volume, and the Browns will probably play from behind. So I'm okay with that.
Love a QB bonus. We don't have that many.
Well, QB bonus. Yeah, absolutely. There's other guys out there. This is not, like I said, not a terrible week. You could talk me into, Jameis Winston or Tommy DeVito or somebody like that. But I don't love those options. They're all even higher than the ones I stated. If you can get Minshew. Browning's okay too. That's kind of where I'm at. All right. Corey wants to know what's wrong with Justin Herbert. I wish I knew. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers. They just don't win, and they look terrible. Now the Patriots defense is really good. They've held opposing offenses to 10 points or less 3 straight games, so it's not like they're a bad defense. But I don't know. What's your theory on the Chargers, Jen?
I don't know that anybody knows what's wrong. I mean, I assume it's the play calling and what's going on there with their OC, but I don't know because the talent is there. Right. I mean, you look at all the pieces, and Herbert was fine at the start of the season.
Yeah, really good, actually.
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective and a real life perspective, really. But I mean, they're circling the drain right now in LA there, and it's frustrating. I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating for them too, clearly. But those of us that have Justin Herbert on their roster, it's tough because he's one of those players. Like we talked about a little bit ago with Ekeler, like you can sit Herbert more than you can sit Ekeler if you have a better option, but you don't really want to, and it's tough because
it's hard. As somebody who has a lot of Herbert, Keenan Allen stats,
I do too.
Across my
I have Herbert in 2 leagues that. I mean, one of them, thankfully, I actually have Jared Goff as my other option. So
good.
I threw him in there a couple weeks ago, and it worked out in my favor. But I don't know. It's difficult because you feel like there's a bounce back. There has to be a bounce back, but maybe not.
Yeah, that's it's the Chargers are a conundrum. They just even when Herbert plays well, they don't win. It's really weird. Oaks wants to know what we think about trading Austin Ekeler for Bijan Robinson and Rashee Rice. I don't hate that just because I really like Bijan Robinson. I'd probably keep Ekeler unless you really need the receiver, but that's kind of where I am. Jen?
Ekeler for Bijan and Rashee Rice. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if this is a dynasty question or a this season question, but
probably not dynasty because that would be really lopsided on the Bijan.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I think that in my mind trading is over for this season. So I guess you're clearly in a league that it isn't. But I mean, Rice is he's a little spotty for me. I would probably keep Ekeler. I mean, granted, Ekeler is spotty right now too. So
yeah. All right, Paul Vo wants to know what we should do with Jerome Ford after this season. I think Ford will slide into kind of the previous Kareem Hunt role when Nick Chubb gets back. I don't know how soon Chubb will be back at that time, but what do you think, Jen, about Jerome Ford's prospects for the future?
I mean, if Chubb comes back and he is Chubb, it's his job. I can't imagine that would not be the case. So I think we have to kind of wait. I mean, he's possibly, I don't know what his contract is, but I would think that he'd be a really good, RB2 to have when Chubb is back. If that's the case, unless he ends up somewhere else. But if he stays there, I assume. I mean, Hunt will be gone, and it'll be Chubb and Ford in that backfield.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for your super chat. We really, really appreciate you. Wants to know, they have lineup questions. Need 2 wide receivers in a flex. They have Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, Jaden Reed, and Chris Godwin, Kareem Hunt, and Keaton Mitchell. 2 receivers in a flex out of that group. That's pretty tough, Matt. All those guys have some high upside and downside and things to be concerned about. So we'll see what's going on with that, Matt. My initial thought there is that Ridley's been volatile, but I think I'd probably use him. I'm a little worried about Deontay Johnson with Mitch Trubisky there at quarterback and up against the Patriots. So I'd probably go with Ridley and then Jaden Reed, who just seems to find the end zone a lot. And then it'd be between Godwin and Mitchell for me in the flex. Jen, where are you?
I think Ridley. I believe with Kirk hurt. I mean, granted, Lawrence is hurt as well, so you have a different quarterback there. But I feel like, Godwin is hurt as well. I mean, basically everybody's hurt. So, Godwin is hurt as well. So I would see 2 wide receivers and a flex. I would probably go Ridley, like you said, Ridley Reed. I kind of like, and then in the flex.
Packers also face the Giants, which their secondary has not been great.
Right. So yeah. So there, and then between Johnson, Hunt, and Mitchell, I don't know. That's a great question for the. I think that against the Rams are kind of middle of the road against the run, and I feel like Jacksonville. They're both kind of the same. Like I feel like Hunt and Mitchell are kind of similar. I don't know. I might actually go Johnson there.
Oh,
him and Trubisky. I don't know.
If it's a PPR, then that makes sense too. I would go Mitchell. I think Mitchell probably has a wider variance for you, but he could give you some pretty boom plays. So I'd go Mitchell, but I think Johnson's very fair. So I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry we're split. That may not have helped you too much. That may have.
Well, no, listen, we're both solid on the 2 wide receivers.
Solid on the 2 receivers. All right.
Check back on the flex a little later in the week when we see what's going on with injuries and whatnot.
Thanks so much again, Matt. I really appreciate it. Aaron wants to know Ayuk or Diggs. To me, you just don't sit Diggs. I love Ayuk, but you don't sit Diggs. Also, Seattle secondary is pretty good, and they'll probably put the rookie on Ayuk, Witherspoon on Ayuk, which tells me it's a Deebo Samuel day to me, but we'll see. Needs to start 2 between Pollard, Ekeler, and Jacobs. So which one do you sit out of Pollard, Ekeler, and Jacobs, Jen?
Oh, wow. That's a good, it's a good problem to have. I probably sit Jacobs against Minnesota. Well, you have to start Pollard there. I'm sorry. You have to start Ekeler against Denver, I think. But I'm going to first thought best. I'm going to stick with Jacobs is my sit.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, and hi, Kev. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Now is the time. Kev got here just in time for the most important question asked in any week in any podcast, and that's, Jen, is it a good week to stream tight end?
It's a good week to stream tight ends.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, we've had worse weeks. We've had better, but I think it's a decent week. I think if you're in a position right now where you're still streaming or you have to stream tight ends, I think you're fine. There's some good options this week. Luckily, we only have two teams on buys. Unfortunately, one of them is Trey McBride, and Logan Thomas is whatever. So we're really only missing one startable tight end this week. So there are decent options. The first guy I've got here is Isaiah Likely against the Rams. He is 36% rostered. So he was off last week, but in week 12, he was second in the Baltimore offense in targets with 6. He is, like I said, coming off that bye, so I feel like they had a chance to kind of integrate him into that tight end one role without Andrews. The Rams are dead last in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed. They're allowing 14.5 half PPR points to tight ends per week. So likely is the top option there based on those facts. Second guy I have is Tyler Conklin against the Texans. He is 20% rostered. He's averaging 6 targets a game in the last 5, regardless of who the quarterback is, right? We still don't know. We know it's not Tim Boyle, but it's, we're looking at Trevor Siemian, Zackety Zach, or possibly Brett Ripien.
Maybe Brett Ripien.
Yeah, could be Brett Ripien. I don't know. Whoever it is, they're likely going to have to check down. That O-line is bad. They're not giving anybody time. So I feel like Conklin, once again, is an option. And Houston's 24th against the tight end. So there you go. Option dose. Third guy I have is Chigakonkwo in Miami, 31% rostered. He's coming off his 2 best games of the season. They may have to throw more in Miami. So there he is. Third guy. I do have a bonus. It is the least sexiest bonus in the history of bonuses, and that is Gerald Everett against Denver. He is 39% rostered. Excuse me. He's had 87 yards and a touchdown in the last 2 games. Like I said earlier when we were talking about it, I feel like LA has to bounce back a little or a lot, right? Somewhat. And Denver's 27th against tight ends. So there you have it. 4 options for you in big leagues, small leagues, whatever your flavor there.
I love that we have bonuses. I also can't believe Isaiah Likely's rostership is still so low.
36%. I think because they were off last week. I think if they weren't, he probably would be in the 60s to 70s. But for now, he's 36% rostered. I doubt that will be the case come tomorrow. But
I agree. He's been. He looks like he's going to get all the targets, so which makes perfect sense. Will Hayes wants to know which defenses to stream for the rest of the year: Dallas, Jacksonville, Green Bay, or Indianapolis. Definitely the Jags, who have the Browns, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Titans on the docket. They've got 1 week against the Ravens, which we don't love, so I'd probably keep Dallas as well. Dallas has a much worse schedule, but they're a better defense. So jockey Dallas and Jacksonville. Green Bay, Indianapolis, I don't have a problem with this at all. They're both streamers, but Dallas and Jacksonville, if I'm keeping them, those are the ones I'm going to keep. Jen, Will Hayes also wants to know, in a PPR, would you start David Montgomery or Devon Achane? What do you think?
I'd probably go Achane this week against the Titans. I don't hate Montgomery, but I just feel like he's back. He's healthy. He had a good week last week. That's who I'd go with.
Yeah, I hate to sit either one of them, but I think I'm with you. I think Montgomery is the one who ends up sitting. Mini Jordan 718 wants to know if they should start Justin Fields or CJ Stroud. That's a tough one, Mini Jordan. Because you're going for someone who you're pretty sure is going to get you nice passing production versus someone who can go off for huge rushing yards in any week. I think because the matchup really favors Fields against Detroit, whereas CJ Stroud faces a really tough Jets defense, I'd probably go with Fields, but that's a scary one. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I was thinking along the same lines. You've got 2 opposite ends of the spectrum as far as matchups go. I mean, Fields is playing against a really porous Detroit defense, and then you've got Stroud against the Jets, who are first against the quarterback. So it's whether or not you want to play matchups or just go with. It's hard. I feel like a lot of times we rely on matchups, and then sometimes it's not the right answer, right? Like sometimes you have to go with the talent and the player and what they're going to do versus, you can get too cute if you rely completely on matchups. So that is a tough one. But I probably lean Fields a little bit, but I don't know. It's tough.
He's so volatile.
I know.
Stroud's been so steady.
I know.
I get the reluctance, Mini Jordan. For what it's worth, we have Fields ranked higher. I just looked that up while Jen was talking. So, Jen, the other awesome, most anticipated question in any, really, I think not just sports podcasts, but all weekly podcasts.
Yeah.
That's, is it a good week to stream Kicker?
It's not bad. Okay, this is the deal with Kicker this week. We have a lot of the process that I use, right? A lot of the higher scoring, higher over-unders, higher implied team totals those guys are all the highest rostered players, right? So these guys don't. So what we're dealing with this week is kind of all of them in the middle of the pack. So all of the streamers that I have this week are pretty interchangeable. Like there's not one clear streamer versus a couple others, and then they're all really kind of in the same boat. They're all they all have the same factors that make them streamable. They're all kind of in the same boat, really. So it just depends. It's a good thing and a bad thing, right? No one stands out, but at the same time, if so-and-so is not there on your roster, just go to the next guy because they're all kind of right in line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, then I will get to it. The guy that I put first, just because whatever, is Blake Groupie. He is playing at home against Carolina, and he is only 8% rostered. He is kicker 7 on the season there. He looks like he's 12 years old, by the way. I don't know if you've looked at a picture of him or seen what he looks like. I was looking at him today when I was looking at a picture for my article. I was like, I don't know if it's just because I'm old these days or whatever, but he literally looks like he's 12 years old.
I know everybody looks 12 to me nowadays. Jen,
me too, but he really looks 12. Like I'm talking younger than Zach 12 when he entered the league. Like
That's
he
pretty young.
Yeah, he's young. But anyway, so he's kicker 7 on the season. New Orleans a 5.5 point favorite at home over the Panthers, and they have an implied team total of 21.5. So he's my top guy, but basically, like I said, they're all interchangeable. A second guy I have is Anders Carlson. He is on the road against the Giants. He is only 2% rostered. Green Bay is kind of heating up a little bit. They've won 3 games in a row. They are 6.5 point road favorites over the Giants with 21.75 implied team total. Like I said, they're all kind of the same there. Third guy we have is Matt Gay on the road against Cincinnati. He is 37% rostered, so he's kind of right up against the edge, but he still qualifies. He is quietly kicker 3 on the season through week 13. That game is actually a pick'em. It's the Colts are favored to win by 1 point, but it's basically a pick'em. They're at a 20.75 implied team total. The good thing about Matt Gay, he has a really good remaining schedule, so you could grab him now and just hang on. They have Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Vegas to finish off. So he's a guy you could kind of just, if you're over it and just want to ride him through the playoffs, he's probably a good guy to grab. And then, of course, I have a bonus because we do that here.
Appreciate the bonuses.
The bonus I have is Greg Joseph, which is the other side. Or no, I'm sorry. He's just Greg Joseph on the road against. Well, because I almost had Daniel Carlson.
I just love he's just Greg.
Yeah,
I'm just hearkening the Barbie movie. Like I'm just Ken. Like I'm just imagining Greg Joseph doing the song. Like
I did not. I have not seen Barbie, but I'm.
It's fun.
No,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. But yes, Greg Joseph on the road in Vegas. He's only 5% rostered. Vikings are favored by 3 with 21.75 implied team total. No, the reason I said that is because Daniel Carlson is actually streamable right now. He is 39%. I try to squeeze him in just because he's always one of those guys that's kind of matchup proof quarterback. But this season he's not there, and I just couldn't justify. I couldn't justify him against the Vikings this week. So, but he is 39% rostered. If you guys are Daniel Carlson fans, grab him. But
fair enough. Corey just asked, would you take Groupie over Will Lutz?
This week, hold on, let me look at one thing. I think so. Or I would have included Lutz in here, but let me just stall for a second and see why I did that. Yeah. So I would say, well, they're actually not that far off. But the reason, Lutz is on the road in LA. I don't love road kickers as much. They're 3-point underdogs, and their implied team total is a couple points under the Saints. So I would actually start Groupie. Lutz is fine, but I think Groupie's just a better play.
That's excellent. Ron has a question: T. Higgins or Cole Kmet? That's a tough one for me. I'd probably go Cole Kmet just because he's getting consistent work and all that, but it's hard to sit T. Higgins. It's just mentally hard to do it, even though he's been very bad all year.
Yeah, he really hasn't been. I almost included him last week in my drop article, and I didn't just because, like you said, I couldn't mentally. It's tough, but I could be talked into Kmet over him, which is something I did not think at the beginning of this year you could tell me to do, right?
That's tough. The Rock wants to know if they should start Taysom Hill, Pat Freiermuth, or Isaiah Likely. I kind of like all those guys to some extent. I think Likely's probably safer, but I can't sit Taysom Hill. Unless I've got one of the elite tight ends, I'm holding on and starting Taysom Hill. His upside any given week is just too high to roll out one of the other secondary tight ends. Jen, I know you're always a little lower on Hill. Do you feel the same?
No, I've come around. I honestly, if you wouldn't have said a word, I would have picked Hill. So I'm with you.
Excellent. Toby needs 2 wide receivers: Jonathan Mingo, Adam Thielen, Dontavian Wicks, or Josh Downs in a half PPR. That's tough. I hate to say the 2 Panthers, but I maybe Josh. I don't know. What do you think, Jen? Because Mingo's getting targets. Nobody's really producing, though. I don't know.
Mingo's getting targets. He's not getting in the end zone, which is extremely frustrating. Josh Downs is another one that's frustrating, and I feel like he's on a downward trend. He was actually included in my dead weight this morning. I feel like, I know that Alec Pierce just had this crazy spike week, and I don't expect that to happen again, but I don't know if we can count on Downs. Wicks is kind of interesting if Christian Watson is out, which
True.
I can't imagine that he would. Yeah. So I would maybe throw Wicks in there with one of the Panthers.
Yeah, that's tough. Good luck, Toby. So Wicks and one of the Panthers. Do you prefer Mingo or Thielen?
I would think you have to go with Thielen, right? Mingo's fine, and he's coming up a little bit, but yeah, I think you have to go Thielen.
Okay. All right. So we're a little split on that one, Toby. Good luck with the decision. Hopefully it pans
listen,
out
we're
for
never
you.
gonna it's tough to be,
never gonna completely agree on these.
And it doesn't make good radio if you do, right?
Yeah, these are tough lineup decisions for a reason. Also, Anthony, thank you so much for the nice words. We really appreciate you. Rodney Bryce, Ekeler, or Raheem Mostert in standard scoring, and DK Metcalf or Puka Nacua. That's a brutal decision, Rodney. I don't think I can sit Puka. I know DK just blew up.
I may go Metcalf just because Baltimore is second against wide receivers.
It's true.
It's tough. If they shut the whole thing down, and then the problem is Metcalf, he had a great week, but their offense has been hit or miss as well. So I lean a little Metcalf, but I totally understand Puka. I think that they're similar. It's a negligible. It's a difficult choice, I guess is what I'm saying. So yes, I get that. And then as far as Ekeler or Mostert, like you said, Mostert is not alone there anymore. So I would still go Ekeler. I know people are down on him, but I feel like against the Broncos defense is getting better, clearly, but they're still soft against the run. So I would go Ekeler.
Excellent. James wants to know if they should start Nico Collins against the Jets. I would definitely be wary about starting Nico Collins. I don't know who the other options are, but I would be wary about starting him. That said, without Tank Dell, it's Nico's show. So depends on what your other options are is really the answer here. But yeah, where I might normally have him ranked a fringe wide receiver 1, he's probably more like a wide receiver, like a solid low end wide receiver 2 for me right now. All right, let's shift into Prize Picks before we get to the defensive streamers. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. So go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. For week 14, I'm eyeing Jackson Smith-Njigba against San Francisco. I think he's going to get more than 44.5 yards against that struggling secondary. We just talked about DK Metcalf against it. Smith-Njigba has actually eclipsed that number in 5 of his last 8. Seattle's been using him a little bit more. They're going to need to throw the ball to keep up with the 49er offense, so I like that. And then I'm going with a kicker again. I also like Younghoe Koo to get more than 1.5 field goals at home against the Buccaneers. He's had that number 7 times this year, and Tampa Bay is 25th in AFBA to opposing kickers. Don't forget, go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. All right. Defenses. Good week. Very good week to stream defenses. There's lots of options. It was actually really hard for me to limit it to 3, but I'm gonna do this. The Patriots at Pittsburgh, like I said earlier, they've allowed 10 or less points in 3 straight games, including against the Chargers. They were the defense special team 8 last week. They're facing Mitch Trubisky on Thursday night. They've allowed a total of 26 points to opposing teams over the last 3 weeks. So they're rostered in only 23% of leagues right now. Bill Belichick still knows how to coach a defense, even if Jen is going to be playing quarterback for them soon. So Then I also like the Packers a lot against the Giants. Tommy DeVito's looking a little better, but the Packers defense is also looking better. And the Giants are ultimately dead last in AFPA to opposing defense special teams. Packers were defense special team 11 last week against the Chiefs. I know this isn't your parents' Chiefs team, but it's still good to hold them as well as the Packers did. And no team has allowed more sacks this season than the Giants. So I think the Packers are going to be able to get pressure on DeVito and be able to come up with a nice fantasy performance again. And then I don't love the Texans defense, but they're coming around and they're facing the Jets. Like Jen said, we don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Jets this week. That's always concerning to me. So Texans, they were the defense special team 5 last week against the Broncos. Jets are 31st in AFPA to opposing defense. The only team worse is the Giants. They're tied for 12th in turnovers forced, the Texans are. And the Jets are tied for 3rd in most turnovers committed. So I like this. The Jets also have the 3rd most sacks allowed. Will Anderson has 4 sacks in his last 5 games. Jonathan Greenard has really, really had a breakout year rushing the passer as well. So that Texans defense getting better against a really, really vulnerable opponent. So I love all 3 of those options: Patriots, Packers, Texans. And then as a bonus, I don't hate either side of the Vikings-Raiders matchup. They both have quarterback issues. I worry about both defenses in general, but Vikings, Raiders, either side of that matchup, if you're interested, then I don't mind too terribly much. So great week for streaming. I would say overall a pretty good streaming week. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I mean we've definitely had worse where we've come into the show like so I think there's options at all 4 streamable positions. So
it's nice. It's nice. Number one Stunna asks us Tajay Spears or Keaton Mitchell in a full PPR, and Josh Downs or Romeo Dobbs. To me, it's Mitchell unless Henry sits, and Dobbs definitely over Downs. What do you think, Jen?
Agree. Mitchell Dobbs.
Okay. Mitty Jordan with another question. Choose 2 wide receivers to pick up and how much fab to spend. Dobbs, Moore, I'm guessing is Elijah Moore, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Noah Brown. And then they need to start one if Christian Watson is out. Well, if Christian Watson is out, I mean, you might as well just stack Dobbs. I don't think Dobbs is going to cost a ton of money for you for fab. So that's probably where I would go. I like JSN too. I'm okay grabbing him, but I think Dobbs is the higher floor, better ceiling kind of guy. And I don't think you need to give up too much. So yeah, probably Dobbs, JSN, and then start Dobbs if Watson's out. What do you think, Jen?
I like Dobbs. I kind of like Moore. The more Flacco thing is real. So
it looked all right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're reunited and it felt good. So I don't hate Moore. I think that, I mean, you're looking for 2. So for me, it's probably those first 2. I don't hate JSN. In fact, I had to start him last week in desperation, and he came through. So, you know, the consistency is not there, but I don't hate. And honestly, like, we're at a point now. I don't know. It depends, of course, on how much fab you have left, but it's pretty close to blow it all time because I mean we're at playoffs. So depending on how much you have left, we're at a point. It depends on your league. Like I'm in several leagues where people are out already. They have nothing left. So like Brandon said, it's not going to take a lot of money, I think, to get anybody this week.
Excellent. All right. Toby, injury riddled Browns D versus the Jags or Texans versus the Jets. Browns, they're too hurt for me right now. I'm not a big CJ Beathard believer, but I would go with the Texans against the Jets. It just, we know the Jets are awful on offense. The Jags still have a lot of weapons, so Beathard might not need to do much in order for them to be okay. Mini Jordan, Packers or Houston for this week? I'd go Packers, but I like both. Hold Dolphins for week 15 versus the Jets. Sure, if you've got the roster space. If you don't worry about dropping them. You can always pick up another defense next time. Max the subscriber, DJ Moore or Chuba Hubbard. That's an interesting one. Chuba struggled most of the season. Great week last week. DJ Moore, kind of boomer bust. Which one are you gambling on, Jen?
It was interesting. Chuba had much more of a lead back role, right? Without Frank Reich. Like they just kind of went to him more. So that's kind of interesting. But like we were talking earlier, I feel like, well, I don't know. That's a tough one because I feel like he will get a lot of carries, so it's more volume. But DJ Moore could pop off, so that's I don't know. I guess it depends on the format, whether it's PPR, half PPR, standard.
In a PPR, you'd prefer DJ Moore?
I don't know because it depends on
It's
that's
tough. That's a
the
tough one, Max.
it is a tough one. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I'd go more against Detroit there, sure.
I'd go more against Detroit. That's kind of where I would go.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
mean, 2
tough.
weeks ago, it would have been a no-brainer, but last week that usage, I mean, he was the clear lead back, and he performed well. So,
Yep.
but yes, DJ Moore.
Yep. JN Sports going to start 2 running backs: Kyron Williams, Saquon Barkley, Isaiah Pacheco, or Devon Achane. That is brutal, JN Sports Cards. I'm going to need to actually think about that one for a second. Pacheco against Buffalo. Buffalo's been a sieve against the run right now, and Pacheco's running really hard, and the Chiefs are really leaning on him. So he's kind of become a must start for me. And then those other guys, I don't know. I guess Kyron Williams has a terrible matchup, so maybe, and that game could always get out of hand. So maybe I sit Kyron, and then it's down to Barkley or Achane for me. Whew, that's a tough one, Jen.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'd probably sit, like you said, I would start Pacheco. I would possibly sit Kyron against Baltimore. Achane, and then who's the other one?
Saquon Barkley. Who's the
Oh,
safer option? Barkley's the safer option.
he is safer, and he's really pretty much all they have. I mean, Green Bay is decent. Yeah, I'd probably sit Williams and Achane, I guess, but that feels gross.
I know it feels awful to sit Achane definitely wins the award of terrified to start him, terrified to sit him.
Yeah, both. Exactly. Yeah.
Number 1 starter, Trevor Lawrence out. Would you start Brandon McManus or Groupie? Concerned with the Jags moving the ball. McManus or Groupie, Jen?
Groupie.
Groupie. Excellent. Yeah. All right. I think that's all I've got this week. Jen, do you have any final thoughts before we go?
I don't. I'm no. Ready to, yeah.
Everybody go make the playoffs.
Yeah, go make the playoffs. Appreciate everybody tuning in and asking questions. Yep. As I say every week, you can always hit me up on Twitter /X. But yeah, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you hanging in. As we said, Brandon and I are solo without a producer this week, so we're winging it. Hopefully, we're up to the standards.
We'll see how the exit goes where I have to start pressing buttons again. We'll see what happens. JN Sports Cards, I like Michael Pittman over Achane and Kyron Williams. Just safer. Pittman's getting double-digit targets a game. The Bengals are vulnerable in the secondary, so that's where I go with that. One final questions before we sneak out. Once again, like Jen said, we appreciate all of you listeners. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We're here every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so come and join us throughout the season on the 4for4 YouTube channel. Discuss streamers get you through your season. You can follow us on Twitter at Jen Akins NFL and at 2 Guys Brandon. Thanks so much for checking us out, and have a good day.